Yes, you read the title correct. I didn't like the Netflix adaptation of Alice in Borderlands. My name is Vilo, and in today's video we're going to talk about why I believe Alice in Borderlands was a bad adaptation when matching it with the source material, and how easily this adaptation could have been different if just a few minor changes. I'm going to try and break this video up in a bunch of different segments, but I guarantee you I'm going to fly off the rails, because that's just how it works. See, I'm not gonna sit here and lie and say Netflix has no good shows, and Netflix is just filled with documentaries and shitty animated comedy series. I mean, 98% literally is, but Netflix do have some Hall of Fame, greatest of all time shows such as BoJack Horseman, Prison Break, Breaking Bad, Dexter, and Big Mouth. Oh, and yeah, Arcane Season 2 just recently came out, and that shit is straight gas. This though doesn't take from the fact that Netflix sucked dick at making good adaptations. Matter of fact, I would suck dick for a good Netflix adaptation. Take a look at Avatar: The Last Airbender. Although the visuals were stunning and really brought a well-renowned series such as Avatar to life, the storytelling and writing on the other hand was horseshit. Matter of fact, let's go down the list of Netflix adaptations that sucked. Death Note sucked dick. The Witcher sucked dick. Cowboy Bebop sucked dick. One Piece sucked. One Piece was okay. Marmaduke sucked dick.
Awesome! What?
I'm a person that believes when it comes to adaptation of something, its goal is not to create something new using inspiration of the source material and change small things or rather big things. The goal is literally to copy and paste that shit. A TV adaptation's goal is to adapt a written story to live action, where you can then recommend it to friends and family that hate reading or watching cartoons. At the same time, the goal is to get new fans that then want to buy the source material, to which then it would directly help the author. Since in today's day and age, everything that's been made can be found on a legal website for free, and this takes away from the revenue to the original creator. The Alice in Borderlands fanbase is drastically different from if you've watched the live action or if you've read it. And when I mean drastically, I fucking mean drastically. Like, I matched the live action of Alice in Borderlands fanbase to the Stranger Things fanbase, and that shit is not a compliment. Alice in Borderlands is widely known for being a show that grips you in on the first episode and doesn't let go. It takes a very basic premise of a group of people being forced into murderous, sadistic games where the only way to win is to survive. And Alice in Borderlands takes that premise and actually turns it into something thrilling to watch, as in every second of the games you're shivering and wondering if they're gonna make it. It's something the general audience would say. Alice in Borderlands is the type of show where you need to turn your brain off, or don't have one, cause it really has that anime feel to it. The protagonist will always figure out the whole game out in the last minute like some supercomputer. Just for that cool dramatic pause leading up to the protagonist saying, "Wait, I get it now." And you just sit there waiting for him to do some Sherlock type of explanation how he figured out the game by remembering something as random as a car parked outside. And that magically told him a plan on how to win. It's a trope that occurs in a lot of edgy shows that just, to me, isn't really that appealing. It feels like it's treating me like a little kid that haven't understood how to count to 3 yet. For most people, they don't realize because they either haven't watched enough shows with that trope, or they're just oblivious to it. It's the same feeling when you watch your first really good series and think nobody can do a plot twist like it, or have you so engaged in a character's development and story, when then you realize once you've seen a couple other good shows and go back to rewatch the show you held on such a high throne, that maybe it was just because it was the first good show you watched, not the best. And that's the reason people took this series with such a liking, since it was the first survival or death game type of show, since season 1 aired before Squid Game. Speaking of Squid Game, this is the chart for Alice in Borderlands popularity with Google Trends. You see those 3 spikes? The first one is when the show first released with its first season. The third one is the second season that introduced the climax of the story, including an ending. And the second one, yeah, that was when Squid Game released. Squid Game, back when it released in 2021, it took not only the internet but the whole world by storm, winning over 40 awards and 6 primetime Emmys. Not only with that, it became Netflix's most watched series, amassing over 1.65 billion hours streamed in the first 28 days, and quickly became a cultural classic, with every new TV news outlet talking about it, Halloween costumes, TikTok trends, and spin-off after spin-off after spin-off. After the massive hype surrounding Squid Game, with it being similar to Alice in Borderlands due to them both being sadistic survival games, it eventually converted some of Squid Game's audience over to Alice in Borderlands. And that's how Alice in Borderlands originally got most of its fan base from, due to the massive crave for another show like Squid Game, and how both of them were on Netflix, leading it to definitely being recommended. Why is this relevant, you ask? Because I think a lot of people got blindsided by the fun of just watching people play for their lives in a game, since that's what literally Squid Game was, that leading to people forgetting what good writing actually is. See, I'm not one to judge. I sometimes find myself liking shows that's just pure brain dead, and that's totally fine. But I swear if the people that enjoyed the show the first time was to rewatch, I strongly believe that they would think otherwise, or maybe I'm just not the target audience. But what is the target audience then? When I look on IMDb, it's mostly targeted towards late teenage adolescents and adults, probably since it's very gory, but the source material is also the same target range, but why does it feel so different though? The manga starts us out by talking about the phenomenon known by many names that revolves around the feeling of wanting to escape from the daily life and achieve freedom. It delves into Arisu, the main character, struggles with being extremely ordinary and the worry high schoolers has on them, such as social media, friendships, exams, how you look, how you behave, and most important of all, your future. It's a very depressing start to a story, but in all honesty, very relatable for every teenager, and even adults, cause we never know what's laying ahead of us. Magically one moment the world shakes and every object you can think of appears, where then he gets teleported into this new world, set in the dystopian future of Japan. When you contrast that to the live action, the story starts out with Arisu playing games where his brother comes in and tells him he's basically a little bitch and loser that will never make it in life. It then switches to him texting his friends for them to meet up. They talk and decide that the greatest idea to do right now is spin around like idiots in the middle of the street, which then magically, I'm fucking no, leads to a police chase where they hide 3 guys in one toilet. I don't even know. Where then magically one moment the bathroom light turns off and when they go out, nobody's there. Both starts end in the same way but have a drastically different build-up. The live action is just telling us the main character is a sore loser and his family is disappointed at him, and when he finally gets happy, everybody disappears. When the manga talks about emotional topics such as feeling average and the wanting for escapism when living a totally ordinary life, where you don't feel like you're good enough and contemplating if it's even worth to try that hard for you to just feel unhappy when you're all grown up. These thoughts through the main character is called inner monologue, and that's one of the things that I think that are missing in the live action. We don't get these moments where we see Arisu overthinking about stuff in the game and analyzing what people are doing. We don't get him at his lowest moments where the screen is just black and it's him as his thoughts. We don't get to see his thoughts about all the grief he's going through and the thoughts about his actions in those crucial moments. We get a sloppy main character that feels dumb throughout the whole show, but somehow is a genius at every game. That don't even make sense. Without these inner monologues from Arisu and even the other characters, it made me not really care about Arisu and frankly every other character in the live action, despite them being the same from the manga. I get it, we live in a time where everybody has TikTok brain and just want to watch some intense murder games after coming home from a long day of work or school, and the industry probably knows better than I do that these moments is not what they want and don't have time for and wouldn't want to spend their budget on, since especially in the film industry it's all about money, money and money, and it's even riskier adapting from source material that is manga. But the whole story of Alice in Borderlands, in my opinion, is about Arisu's development in not the games but his thoughts. His thoughts is what's interesting, him being the actual narrator, not feeling like we're watching in third person. It shows us the human growth when set in murderous situations where you need to be greedy, you need to be selfish. But what is being selfish if your friends and loved ones aren't there? To further understate my point, I'll give some examples in the story where I think the inner monologue would have fleshed out Arisu as a character. In the third game, 7 of Hearts, where the original friend group has to play a game of hide and seek where only one survive, where in the end Arisu is the last one standing and the episode ends with Arisu crying and having a breakdown. And the next time we see him again, he's laying on the floor with Osugi helping him up. And then it just continues with the story. In contrast to the manga, where after he survives, he runs out crying and screaming, and when he gets to the game venue with a loss of words and confusion, he gets his prize. Some cooked mutton chops, along with a note telling him to enjoy his meal when he leaves the game's venue. Just some cooked mutton chops, which is just some meat, just some food, some material, after losing his only childhood friends he had. This obviously leads to outrage inside of him. What had just happened was just for some meat. It then cuts to black, where we see Arisu in the dark with a lighter in his hand, explaining that he didn't remember much and the only thing he do remember is he didn't have the courage to face them. Their bodies. He burns down the whole stadium whilst crying, whilst in a state of, depression. He goes on this monologue talking about whilst one part of his mind wanted to avenge his friends and get revenge for everything that had just happened to him, he knew deep down that he didn't care. It didn't matter. And then it comes to Yusuke finding him just how in the adaptation. But why, just why was this excluded for the adaptation? Why was his anger after seeing his pride being just some meat removed? Why was him burning down the stadium and going on this monologue removed? And if you say that burning down the whole stadium would have cost too much money for the production, which I would agree that probably would cost a lot, then no. It literally happened 4 episodes later. After defeating the King of Clubs, Arisu decided alongside Yusuke to not participate in any more games in Alice in Borderlands because of how much torment it had brought to him each time he lost somebody. But more importantly, the people he's against are just as humans as he is. And as he realized, not bad people, and actually people he admired, such as Kyoma. Kyoma in particular had the ideology that the meaning of life is up to you, and that's why even though he lost the challenge and was going to die, he didn't have any regrets. Arisu directly embodied this ideology of Kyoma, maybe in a sense of respect for him, since he treated him like a friend despite him being a so-called king of the game, totally defeating the point of hierarchy such as on the beach. It shows Arisu's mental development, which only happened if he went through these depressing times, these people, these experiences. Is killing each other to survive any different than killing an animal for food? If it isn't, then why kill each other? Or I finally understand life, it isn't about how long you live or whatever you achieve, it's about who you share it with. These thoughts he thinks about is not just something you read and then move on, it's life lessons that you can relate to the real world. Yourself. And personally, I find these messages that get conveyed through characters or straight up told to us is what media is all about. At least the media I enjoy. I want something that makes me think or inspires me, something that moves me. If you're sitting here saying this wasn't in the TV show, Yusuke and Arisu never decided that they're just gonna relax and enjoy the last moments instead of participating, well, you're right. Cause they didn't put it in. The manga has so many moments that could flesh Arisu out as a character, and I could give about like 15 examples, but I think that's for you, the viewer, to enjoy if that's what suits you. But let's be real, you're not gonna read the manga, and that's why you're watching this. But there is one instance where I feel like this could have been so crucial for the adaptation that it's actually pissing me off they didn't get put in. 7 days after Arisu decided he weren't gonna participate in the games, he finds himself in the dark. Is what he's doing the right way? What happened to the fire inside him, always striving to avenge his friends and be passionate about something? Arisu throughout the story in the manga is known for being very harsh on himself. This time it's even worse, to the point he's hallucinating multiple versions of himself, talking down on him. That he's in a slum, that's what he's doing is egotistical, that he should just give up. He's in this dark tunnel and Choda appears, then Karabu and Shikobi shows up, and finally Kyoma. All the people he admired and loved is back. Kyoma gives this beautiful speech of how when we're young, we take abundantly and limitlessly. And when we're adults, we give the same way we received, abundantly and limitlessly. But Arisu never received anything. Arisu gives of himself, and that's it. Meaning that he takes care of others instead of taking care of himself. And Kyoma ends the speech off with, no matter how many steps you take forward in the dark, there's always an exit. These moments in the Alice in Borderlands manga is what I miss in the adaptation. Kyoma, Arisu and everybody else just feels more human because we know their inner thoughts, their struggles. But more importantly, their thoughts about their struggles, their considerations. We even get more backstory on every character explaining their decisions when it came to the games, and just overall makes us care more about the characters, though only there for a couple chapters. Everything just feels more down to earth, fleshed out, and just overall better in the manga. The manga is way more about exploring the meaning of life when your circumstances are limited, whilst the adaptation is more about the meaning of murder, cool survival games, murder, and more fucking murder. I'm not gonna do the, oh, you thought I was done, nah, I'm just getting started shit. But in the same way, I fucking am. The Queen of Spades game, you remember that game? Yeah, it was fun, right? No, it fucking wasn't. The game was not intense at all. My grandma could have made that shit blindfolded. And I don't care about it was intended for her to be a challenge. Like, what? No. But you know what was fun? The game they didn't fucking put in. A game where we get introduced to a new narrator. A guy named Dodo, I think. Dodo. Dodo had just seen his crush with his best friend, and as contrast to Arisu, he had been thrown in Alice in Borderlands. alone. Meaning it's a different perspective on our story, but instead of us probably thinking that was scary, Dodo actually think of it as a kind of a relief. Cause he had just been straight up bawling cause his best friend took his crush. Dodo decides to walk to the only building with lights on. He enters and he sees other people. He's unsure what to do, but in confusion he enters the elevator with them. The game is set on a skyscraper with each of them having a window cleaning platform to stand on. The premise is very simple. It's a survey quiz in which if you guess wrong, you go down, and if you guess right, you go up. And if you're sent to the top floor, you win, and vice versa. The game begins and everybody seems confident, and Dodo is still confused and shocked cause he had just entered a random game without even knowing what the fuck was going on. Throughout the game, he struggles to even survive, but when he finds out tricking a person into guessing the wrong answer gives you 5 extra points, and the other contestants has just done it, why couldn't he? But as said before, what does it mean to win if you're alone? And in such, he tries to help the contestant he just tricked and gave her the real answer to the next question, that he knew in hopes of all of them surviving together, showing signs of empathy, but she had already lost trust and picked the wrong answer, and died. Long story short, Dodo answered the final question to clear the game, and he guessed the answer to the question by the last guy standing next to him. And they help each other to win, but little did we know the person helping him was Arisu. This game not only starts out very strange since we don't know what the fuck is going on, and neither does the narrator, we get an insight on a different perspective of the games and also Arisu from another perspective. But more importantly, this is not the end of Dodo. In the King of Spades game, where we see Arisu escape in the forest, where he ends up meeting the two characters Agony and Heya, where they team up to fight against the king, yeah, that was Dodo, not Arisu. And the only reason it was Arisu is because Dodo as a character got cut out as a whole. And that shit is fucking lazy. You can't excuse that they just wanted to follow one storyline, cause they glazed Jishiya so much that even got a right to one of the games that they weren't in, even in the manga. Like, this shit don't make sense. They just pick and choose the favorites, like some fucking alcoholic dad beat. Speaking of picking and choosing, why the fuck did they remove the first game? Why? The first game, I agree, is probably the least exciting, but the shit they replaced it with were even worse. For anyone who didn't know, it was like some type of fortune game where you got a question, and when you got it wrong, you would get thrown that amount of you were wrong by inflaming arrows. But the charm of the first game was that it was a near impossible question, and it set the standards of the game and added this element of what the fuck is happening. But I do agree that the first game was definitely the weakest, and to be honest, I could see the game being removed and being better for the story overall. But not when you replace it with a game where the only way to win is somehow Arisu on the first game is his fucking best performance. I don't even know, like, he remembered something with the doors and shit, like that shit was genius, I won't lie. Arisu and Yusuke was also never in the fourth game with the bus and the water thingy. Matter of fact, in the manga, Arisu played 7 games when in live action he played 10. And if you just remove those 3 games, I'm sure there would be time for the Days After Start arc, where it was just people conversating and nothing else. It reminded me of the episode in Attack on Titan where nearly every main character sit around a campfire and just discuss and argue and nothing else happens. After such big things occurs and extreme hype, I think it fits so well just having a character you care about and even more characters just interact. There's this saying that there's something bad in everything good and something good in everything bad. I've been unbelievably negative in today's video, and frankly for good reason, but let me show something that I actually like. Season 2, in contrast to Season 1, despite having extra challenges, it had also added a lot more chiller and atmospheric moments, such as Arisu exploring the dystopian Japan alone in search of Yusuke. Those 4 to 5 minutes was actually pretty well done, cinematic shots, no talking at all and just silence observing, of everything that had just happened and, of course, the beauty of the abandoned city. It just adds this sort of pause from the chaos, some time for us to get to know the people we follow, so we feel more impact when they eventually die. There's also this meeting between Arisu and Chishiya where we get Niragi's meltdown, which I think was done pretty good. It's exactly what I imagined, and there wasn't as many edgy lines as I thought they would add. And just overall was very emotional, and it's probably the most memorable moment from the whole series, and perhaps the only memorable moment that was positive. At least. In conclusion, the Alice in Borderlands adaptation wasn't necessarily bad, but it had its own motive and direction of the story while still being the same. What I mean by that is that it's more focused on intense survival games and the mystery behind what Alice in Borderland was, rather than focusing on the character's belief and the reasons for making the decisions they make by showing their character before Alice in Borderlands or before the games even. Overall, it lacks character and emotions in every department, and the games they removed and added and all the small changes they made weren't really positive changes. Alice in Borderlands adaptation didn't live up to my expectation, but that doesn't really matter, cause if you enjoyed it, then you enjoyed it. If you watched all the way to the end, I would love for you to comment what's your thoughts on the adaptation, if you read the manga, or if you're just a Netflix series only. What was bad, what was good, what did you think? I would also recommend to like and subscribe and hit the little bell icon so you won't miss another video. This is all for this time, bye.